And we are going to take it over to Mark Weinberg and Rick DeLuca for a weather update right now. Some stormy weather tonight.
Well, we've been watching the storms here, and now we have a dangerous situation. And whenever we have a tornado warning, we tend to go in and we stay for a little while because the protection of life and property is more important. We do now have a tornado warning that was just issued that Rick and I have been watching. And Rick, there's a couple of storms here, the one in Orange and Washington County that are under severe thunderstorm warnings. And then that storm in Jackson County is now the one of concern that has now been tornado warned. And that's the first tornado warning in our area that we have seen out of these storms here. Latest on that one, the National Weather Service is giving us a tornado warning. This is located specifically near Brownstown. It is moving to the southeast at 30 miles per hour. And this is a radar indicated storm here. So let me take us over from our watch and warning graphics to our actual radar. Now, Rick, let's first focus quickly on the storm that has the potential for the wind damage and the hail. And that's the storm that now, as you mentioned, is moving towards the Salem area. A lot of lightning strikes, Rick. We've seen these all night long, just tons and tons of lightning strikes.
Yeah, around southeast Fredericksburg. I mean, you got to be ready for some lightning, some heavier downpours, and this storm system could pack some gustier winds. They definitely mean business out there. Wind gusts around 60 miles an hour. We've seen numerous reports of tree limbs down, and that could easily lead to more power outages. So something to keep in mind if you live in Livonia, if you know, you're traveling around 150, Oregon Springs, Becks Mill. It's just something that you really have to keep in mind. This warning doesn't expire until 7:25. So again, ongoing for the next 20 to 25 minutes or so. And
that's the first of the warnings. And then Rick, take us off to the north if we could here, and then we'll look at the other storm here. And this one obviously also has absolutely a ton of lightning strikes on it. And this is the storm that has the tornado warning on it near Brownstown. And you can see this one's moving off towards the south and east. The lightning strikes on there are just remarkable. There's so many of them. I'm actually going to take those off just because from a standpoint of tracking these, it becomes very, very difficult to see. It becomes very, very difficult to see where we have some of those problems. Rick, you can see right over Pershing, and I'm going to come back over here to the wall so we can kind of track this one. But this over Pershing is the core of the storm. The area that we're concerned about is near Brownstown, the south side of the storm. If you live in Brownstown, it's time to take your tornado safety precautions now. What that means is you want to go downstairs to the lowest floor of your house. You want to obviously keep away from any windows. Outside walls are a bad idea. You want to get into the interior part of the house. That is the safest spot to be. With the storm moving off towards the south and east at around 25 miles an hour. Rick, let's track that part of the storm. And what you'll notice here, the area that Rick is tracking is the southern side of the storm, where if there was a tornado, it would be. So Brownstown here momentarily, in the Wiegand area in 17 minutes, and 26 minutes, it'll be in the Tampico area. So this is our first tornado warning of the night here, and Brownstown's got to take this seriously. Rick, from a rotation standpoint, you know, a lot of these storms have not been necessarily rotating. This is one of the few here, and as we look, I'm going to take us over to Storm View 3D, and we'll take a look at some of that rotation here. The storm of interest is going to be, let me take you in a little closer, near the Brownstown area. Rick, from a rotation standpoint, looks okay. Nothing that I would call extraordinary rotation. Normally in this scenario, we'd be looking at kind of a weaker spin up.
Absolutely, yeah, some weak rotation. I mean, it's very broad too. We're not looking at much, but it's something that definitely could cause some damage if it was to come together.
And what I'm seeing here on one side of this is about 18 knots of rotation, and on the other side, we're looking at somewhere around a max of about 25. So we're looking at about 55 miles an hour of rotation here. Again, this is indicated by the National Weather Service from radar. So we don't actually have a spotter saying, look, I've got a tornado on the ground. And when you look at the area of rotation, the area that we would be concerned about, you can see it's very, very close to the Brownstown area here. So if you're on the northwest side of Brownstown, basically West County Road 100 North, where that junctions with let me make sure I got the roads right here. North County 300 West. Okay, so the rotation is now moving right into the Brownstown area. If indeed you live in Brownstown, it is time to take your tornado safety precautions immediately because that storm is moving right on top of you. So the rotation area now is basically on the Brownstown area. Rick, this has kind of been our only storm here. The main threat as we've looked through the evening today has been mainly some damaging wind. And I would say, you know what, that's kind of not been a huge threat. But the rain, I mean, the rain has just been nasty all evening long.
Right, we've been watching the rain gauges. I mean, 2 to 3 inches of rain in some locations, and that short of a period of time. I mean, that's too much rain too soon. It has nowhere to go. The ground is already saturated. Overnight, we had a round of thunderstorms. Maybe they woke you up, but I mean, there was some heavy rain that came through our area, and we have more rain now on the way, which does mean that I mean, just a short little shower that lasts 10, 15 minutes or so, that's really all you need to see additional flooding concerns. So if you have plans to be out on the roads this evening, I would just say maybe cancel your plans, wait another night, because this is no situation that you want to be involved in, especially downtown. We've seen numerous reports of just cars being abandoned, people having to leave their cars underwater just because we've had that much rain over the past couple of hours or so. Now, again, this is the one tornado-warned storm that we are watching, the only one we're watching, but it's something to be concerned about. If you live in the Brownstown area right now, I'd definitely take your tornado safety precaution.
All right, so the tornado warning is in effect again for Jackson County until 7:30 Eastern time. So a tornado warning here for Jackson County until 7:30. We'll take you back out a little wider and show you kind of what we're dealing with on the entire cluster of storms here. You know, there's part of me that's concerned still about this line, and part of that problem is, Rick, is that we've seen the initial round of storms, and I'll put this over the last 3 hours that moved through Louisville. The problem is that line from Louisville through Jasper is an area that has not been touched by rain. So that area now is still warm to the south of there. And what happens is we call this differential heating. You end up with a little boundary there that kind of can enhance rotation. And we've got another tornado-warned storm that's west of Jasper as well. Now, that's not in our area. The key word here is yet. We're going to stay in, and we may have to stay in for some time if we get two of these that go tornado warned. And even that storm here that's near southeast, although an oddball of a looking storm, it still is showing a tail on the back edge of it, which could also indicate some rotation. And that one's moving off to the east and northeast. So there's kind of weird motions here as we look at the storms tonight. This one moving through southeast. Right now it's over Hardinsburg, Indiana, not over Kentucky, heading towards the Oregon Springs area. And then the tornado-warned storm. And I'll take you back over to 3D so we can assess the rotation on that. The rotation has not intensified much over the last scan. And as we look, you know, I would say it has gone up a little bit here now. Let me take that back. That rotation does look a little bit tighter now on radar. What I'm seeing here on one side of the storm, about 25 knots, so that's about 30 miles an hour rotation. On the other 34, so that is now up to about 60 knots. So now we're looking at somewhere around 70 miles an hour rotation. So this could be producing a weak tornado in Brownstown. Take this seriously, Brownstown. Get underground or get into your storm safety spot, center of the house. Keep away from windows. Interior rooms are really important. Those outside walls, if a tornado was to occur, it can kind of blow tree limbs down. It can blow debris into the outside of that house. And Rick, so those outside walls of that house kind of become your protection from the tornado. You know, if it was to loft debris, the outside of the house would protect you if you're safe in the middle part of that house.
Yeah, definitely stay away from the windows. I mean, that's the one spot you don't want to be. This is not time to go out and try to take pictures or do anything. I would definitely just say stay in a safe place for the next couple hours. We're trying to watch this storm system as it continues off to the northeast, or southeast rather. This is something that we're going to be watching. So it looks like some areas as we look further along the line here.
And this, by the way, is pulling now at about 50,000 feet. So this is a pretty solid storm here, and you can see the core pretty intense on this. So it's a good-looking storm, probably one of the stronger storms that we have seen in our area. Brownstown, you need to be taking tornado safety precautions immediately. Rick, a rundown of the wider perspective across the area here continues to show that this is not the only storm that's of interest to us. We've also got another tornado-warned storm near Jasper, a severe thunderstorm warning west of the Bedford area, and another severe thunderstorm near the Hardinsburg, Indiana area.
Right, so south of the river right now, you're just seeing generalized showers and thunderstorms. Just north of the river, that's where the two warnings are. The one lone tornado warning, which is just around the Seymour area. The other one, the severe thunderstorm warning. And Mark, looks like that one's picking up a little pace too.
Which one?
The severe thunderstorm.
Yeah, you know, and it looks like there's a couple of clusters there. Again, that's the problem is it's kind of along that differential heating area from Jasper through Louisville. The problem is that we now have an area that's heated more. It hasn't been rained on. That area would be from Tell City, from the Litchfield area, goes south here around Campbellsville. Now that area, the problem is very, very warm still. So what happens when you have a scenario like this, you have, the term we use in meteorology is differential heating. It means it's warmer over Tell City and Litchfield and colder where it's rained. The problem with a scenario like that is it allows the atmosphere to pick up a little rotation. And that little area of rotation, as the storms slide along them, we can get quick spin-ups here. Rick, what I'd like to do here quickly is take a tour of each individual storm and then we'll go and track each of them. So let's first start on the storm that's over Hardinsburg, Indiana. That's the first of our storms that we're interested in. This one's moving off to the north and east. So if you live in Salem, while you're not under the severe thunderstorm warning, I don't see a reason that this storm is going to weaken at this point. It clearly is a supercell. Over the Fredericksburg area, you're talking about the potential for hail and wind gusts to 60 miles an hour. Rick, let's track this guy as it's moving off towards the north and east, coming in at around 25 miles an hour. Specifically, the areas of interest for us would be around the Farabee area in the next 28 minutes. Puts it in Fredericksburg right now, and then Salem in the next 24 minutes. The other storms that we have to the west, I would like to look at those as well, because they're really starting now closing on our area. There is a tornado warned storm here, and this one has a hook on the back side of it. This has been a persistent supercell, and I think this one actually could tornado. This one is concerning to me as well. It's near the Iva area. And from reference here, this is Jasper and this is Portersville. So that rotation gets only about 10 miles further to the east, and we're going to be talking about another tornado warning in our area. And Rick, let's now go back to the storm near the Brownstown area, see how it's doing on the radar. Still shows the body of the storm, and then notice Rick zooming in on the hook edge of that storm, which is right over Brownstown. Now, I'm not seeing any signature that shows that the tornado is lofting any debris. The term that we use in that is called a tornado debris signature, and I do not see a signature like that, and we will be watching it. If we see something that shows any debris getting lofted, that for us would tell us that there's a greater threat. But that area of rotation sitting now right on top of Brownstown and heading off towards the south and east, that's the storm, Rick, that we are watching the closest. It does kind of show a little bow on the tail of that, which means it may be getting some help now. It may be actually seeing some of the colder winds on the backside of it racing down towards the ground, and that can also enhance spin up. Some tracks, some times on that storm, Rick.
All right, looks like 21 minutes in retreat, about 24 in Crothersville. I mean, this is a storm system that basically will have that tornado warning for another 15 to 20 minutes or so. So if you live in these areas, a good idea to, again, get away from windows, get downstairs in a safe place that you typically have designed for this sort of scenario, and that's something that you're going to want to do for the next, let's say, half hour. Just get down there. Nothing major, but again, this is something that could produce some damaging winds. It could be a weak tornado, so it's something that's really nothing to mess around with. Brownstown, you're in it right now, and areas down to the south and to the east of it in about 14 to 24 minutes. If you live in those areas outlined, then it's something that you definitely want to be prepared for.
And I just want to mention, I'm always on Facebook and Twitter during severe weather, and the reason it's important is because it kind of gives me a link to you at home. If you find me on Facebook, it's Mark Weinberg, or Mark with a C, or Twitter, Mark Weinberg WX. You can basically stay in contact with me when I'm on the air, and it allows me to get reports from you. If you can safely let us know what occurred in Brownstown, we would appreciate it. If you live in Brownstown and can safely let us know that you're okay, or if you've seen a tornado or anything, find me on Facebook or on Twitter and let me know, and we will give that information out as quickly as we can. So, Rick, it looks like we got the new scans in and continues to show that potential of rotation. I think that area, if I was more concerned, would be just to the south of the Brownstown area. And you can see Storm View 3D, and we say this a lot, Rick, green means go. Right. So when you start to see a green on there, a little bit interested in terms of a potential tornado, and that is right over South Brownstown.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, that's the one tornado warning we have in the area right now, and that's something that you really have to watch closely. If you live in these areas, I mean, it's about time you really take your tornado safety precautions. It's just south of Brownstown right now. We have some roads on there we could probably keep an eye out for.
Yeah,
Mark.
and the road specifically, if you're interested in where exactly that rotation is, it is now crossing State Road 250. So State Road 250, where that junctions with, make sure I get the roads correct here. State Road 250, where that junctions up with State Road 39. So State Road 39 and 250 would be the area of rotation. Rick, the green has come off there, so the rotation has come down just a little bit on that storm here. From the National Weather Service, they've not given us an update on this. Traditionally, they'll give you a status update about 10 minutes after the warning, so that's something that we'll have to watch. But Rick, it looks like we may be lining up a couple more of those severe thunderstorms here. Notice from Crandall, north of Crandall over Hardinsburg, Indiana, English, and then back to the west, and then that large cluster. What I'm a little concerned about for tonight, Rick, is if that cluster that's west of Bedford evolves, becomes mature. You know, even if it's not a severe weather threat, that's going to get to Louisville. we've got flooding already around the area. That is not something we need to see. And when you look at that in motion, Rick, I mean, that is still on a beeline towards Louisville.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that packing a lot of rain. When you see those darker reds and those darker oranges, I mean, that can produce about 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. And we've already seen about 3 inches of rain in some locations, and that could start tallying up to around 5, 6 inches of rain. So if you think you've seen enough rain already, well, it looks like there could be more on the way if this indeed does hold together. So we're watching the threat for some gustier winds with any of these severe thunderstorms, but I think a majority of us, the main concern would be some flooding. If you've seen flooding already, I mean, the threat for flooding is not over just yet. Areas basically north of the river are still included in that flash flood watch, and a couple areas included in the warning as well. So aside from the severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings, flooding is also a major concern right now.
Yeah, and I agree. And someone, John Riley, is in Crothersville, and he just tweeted me and asked if he should take shelter in Crothersville. And the answer is yes, John, you should. You are under a tornado warning. You know, what I'm seeing here on radar over the last couple of scans is that rotation may be weakening a little bit near the Seymour area, just to the south over Brownstown. I think, and let's go back over to Storm View 3D if we could, Rick, but you'll notice those greens and reds are not as closely tucked together. Remember what this means. The radar simply can see what's going on, whether what's coming towards it or away from it. So when you see the greens on here, it means that it's coming towards the radar. When you see the reds, it means it's blowing away from the radar. So what this says is we've got winds in this direction on one side, this direction on the other. That is an area of rotation right here, just south of Brownstown by about 2 miles. Now, the greens and reds are not quite as tightly packed as they were on the last scan here. And then secondly, they've tilted a little bit towards the north and east. And what that means is the rotation may be breaking down somewhat here south of Brownstown. I'd like to look at it for one more scan. If it continues to show a weakening trend, I think what we'll do is go back and continue with programming on DRB and finish the newscast on MYO, but I don't want to let this thing go until I see one more scan. Rick, I saw you kind of poking around on there. What kind of rotation speeds are we seeing?
It definitely dropped down, as you suggested, a little bit. I think before we're looking at 60 mile an hour, went back down to around 45 mile an hour. So it does look like it's weakening a touch, still something to be concerned about, but it looks like the next scan will definitely tell the full story here.
Yeah, and the normalized rotation here is coming down just a little bit as well. Notice now we're looking at blues instead of the greens, and that's a good sign here. I want to look at the top of the storm to see from a three-dimensional standpoint how it's doing. Well, Rick, it looks like, you know, it still looks like it's got a really, really intense updraft on that. Look at that core going close to 54,000, maybe 56,000 on this. A big storm. I mean, really a big storm. And impressive in the fact that it's actually coming behind that main line in the slightly cooler air, which kind of concerns me about those storms then secondarily that are coming towards Jasper and Du Bois County here. Can those go severe? If this one's at 52 in the cold side of the storms, then it still concerns me on the western edge here. And I'll kind of take a look. We've got other storms here, and we can show you the 3D look on the rest of the line. The storm over Hardinsburg, let me give you a 3D look on that one so we can kind of get an estimate on where that guy is standing up to. That's up to about 44,000 feet. Big difference here. That storm, you'll notice that core doesn't go up as high, Rick. So for me, you know, I mean, that tells us that one's kind of ingesting some of the colder air. It's not as deep of an updraft, not as strong, so that air's not rising as quickly.
Right, makes a little more sense. I mean, they just got pounded with several inches of rain in some of these locations, so you would think the atmosphere is a little cooler, it's a little more stable. It's really hard to feed some of these storm systems. You know, they love to track along the warm and humid conditions, so we've taken down a little bit of the warmth, a little bit of the humidity, but as you can see, there's still enough fuel left over in these areas that some of these storms are definitely capable of being severe.
And as far as reports here on my Facebook page, I haven't got any reports of any damage from anybody yet. So if you're in Brownstown, I think it's safe at this point. The storm has passed you. Please find me on Facebook, Mark Weinberg. Let me know what you're seeing. Rick, now we've got more severe thunderstorms, severe thunderstorm warnings just issued. Since we've been kind of spending our time on the northern edge of the storm, I don't want to ignore the southern edge of that line. We just got new severe thunderstorm warnings in for the southern end of the line, counties on that southern end of the line. And this one looks like it's a hail producer. This would include Hardin County, LaRue, Marion, and Nelson County until 7:50, 7:50, a severe thunderstorm warning. This one's moving east at 25 miles an hour. Rick, that's got a hail core for sure, just to the south of Nelson, or just to the south of Nelsonville, along 583. You know what? If you live in Nelsonville, get your vehicle inside immediately. Not worth taking the risk. That could be some quarter-size hail there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one just came out here, so there's several counties included in this one. So we're looking at this storm from a standpoint that look south of the river. I mean, those are the areas that are actually more favorable right now for this storm development, just due to the fact that there's temperatures are still in the 80s down there. You still have a decent amount of moisture, and those are the areas that I was a little bit more concerned about. If these storms fire, and they could be a bit more intense. So I think that's the one storm that has a lot of fuel to work with, unfortunately. So if you live in Nelsonville and you're heading down, let's say 583, it's definitely something you want to keep in mind here.
And that, you know, on Storm View HD here, it's definitely indicating a hail core there. Now, while I will say it at times can overestimate the hail size a little bit. It's showing 4 inch. That's probably not going to happen. But I think legitimately maybe an inch, inch and a half hail is absolutely in play. So worst case scenario is this one could produce some golf ball size hail over the Roanoke area, Nelsonville, New Haven. Get your vehicle inside. Not worth taking that risk. You know, not worth taking the risk with hail. We've obviously seen plenty of storms over the last couple of years that have done damage with hail. And this one is a good solid core between Nelsonville and Roanoke that could be producing potentially damaging hail. I want to take you one last time, and Rick, let's go over to Storm View 3D again. And what I'm going to do is take you to the Brownstown storm, and I want to look at the rotation within that storm one last time. Rotation is broadening. It is not as intense right now. As I look at the normalized rotation here, we see blues instead of greens. Traditionally speaking, this means the tornado threat may be going down on this storm that's moving to the southeast at 30 miles per hour. So we are watching a decreasing intensity on this storm. What I want to let our producers know inside, we're probably going to stay with this storm just a couple more minutes. Can you let us know when the programming ends so that we can let out of the severe weather coverage? So they're going to let us know here. We're going to stay with the storm just a minute or two more, just so we can make sure that the tornado warning and the tornado concern has gone down. You know, one thing I want to mention to you, and whether you're in Jackson County, whether you're in Louisville, whether you're in Adair County, whether you're in Hardin County, Kentucky, one of the things that we always hear is, well, you guys always cover Louisville. I just hope that you know in Jackson County you are equally important to us. We don't care whether you live in the most populous city in our area or the least. Your life is important to us, and we are going to cover your weather. So we'll stay with this until we think the threat has diminished, and we hope by our actions we prove that you are definitely important to us. Seymour is looking at actually just the rain and maybe a small hail core, but Rick, I'm having some trouble believing that storm actually is going to produce much hail. It just looks more like it's been kind of a rogue rotator along the line.
Yeah, it seems to be doing that, and I think we should track this one just to see exactly which areas need to be prepared for this storm system. So as we continue to look at the storm, it's, again, racing off to the east, southeast, and this warning continues to remain into effect until 7:30. So up to the National Weather Service whether or not they want to continue with this one. But again, it's something that is definitely capable of producing a tornado. It's continuing southeast at 30 miles an hour, so we'll show you exactly which areas should be concerned in the next half hour or so. So as we track it, you can see Jennings in about 16 minutes, Worcester 27 minutes from now. And if this storm holds together, again, it's something that seems to be in a weakening phase, but that doesn't mean anything. These storms, they cycle. They go in and out. Sometimes they gain a lot of energy and die out. But just like anything else, they can come back to life here. So that's a storm that definitely has our attention right now. Definitely tracking that one.
And Rick, let's take it to a wide perspective, show the area here. We've just got 1 minute left in the newscast here. So for those of you that are wondering if we're going to get you back to programming, look, we don't want to hijack you. We're not going to stay with it. We're going to just send you back to programming. We just have the end of the newscast to fill here. So we kind of have, spent some time on the severe weather coverage, and we'll just spend the last 30 seconds here. E-Town severe thunderstorm warning off to the east. So this one is heading towards, let's say, shows the rotations weakening a little bit, so I don't feel like it's going to require continual coverage. We're going to let that one go. We've got the tornado warning that's west of Jasper. We're going to watch this storm closely over the next 15 to 30 minutes. If a warning does go up for our area, we will be on it. I'll have updates on Facebook and on Twitter. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates. Rick, it looks like to me this storm has multiple areas of rotation. One that's sitting on top of Du Bois, and then another that would be basically over that Harbison area. Right. So there's two areas on this storm that are rotating and two areas of concern. And when we go to the normalized rotation, you can kind of see that extended, elongated area of rotation on the storm.
Right. If you actually look, there's a little, if we go back over to Storm View HD, there's actually these little tails that you can see right along there. So again, those two areas, not just one, but two areas that we have to keep a close eye on for the potential for some rotation there. And as we track this, we'll actually show you exactly which counties and which areas need to be on guard now, let's say, as you go to the northeast around 5 to 10 miles an hour. French Lick, about 25 minutes or so. This is something you just want to keep in mind here. It looks like,
you know, down line, if
down
it holds together.
If it holds together, right. So,
and Rick's got that area of the rotation right now, the specific area of rotation number 1, and that's moving off towards the east at about 25 miles per hour or so. So we've got kind of 2 areas that we're watching for rotation here. Since that rotation is a little more broad, I'm going to track this on kind of a broad perspective here, taking it to the east at about, let's go at about 20 miles an hour. That puts it in the Kellerville area in 4 minutes, and in Du Bois Crossing in 8 minutes, Cusco 21 and 31 in Norton. And the reason we kind of track it this way in this particular storm is because we have a broader area of rotation. So since there's 2 kind of rotation centers, we'll have to watch that. Now, first off, I know we're in primetime programming, and I want to let you know we're not going to stay with this longer than we need to. Once we feel that the risk has come down a little bit, we'll let the storm go. At this point, we feel like the rotation has come up enough that we feel like we need to come into programming because it is a threat to life and property. North of Du Bois, take your tornado safety precautions right now. And I want to take you on a wider tour here, show you the whole area. Remember, we're under a severe thunderstorm watch here, and we will be under the severe thunderstorm watch for the next few hours. The problem is that south of this line of thunderstorms, there hasn't been much rain. So from Tell City and Litchfield, there hasn't been much. And what that means is that it's still warm and it's still humid. And the problem with that is now to the north of that line, it's cold. And right along that area where the hot continues in Tell City and where the cooler exists near, let's say, Bedford, you enhance an area of rotation. In meteorology, we term this differential heating. And when this happens, you can get tornado warnings. And what you'll notice is there's another tornado warning for Knox County. So Knox County under a tornado warning, and then northern Du Bois County under the tornado warning. And as I mentioned, this guy is going to be shrouded in rain. You have 0 chance of actually seeing this. It will cover itself up in rain, and then as the storm moves across your area, you would really have no visual way to tell if a tornado had touched down. It is now over the Du Bois area and heading east towards the Cusco area. If you live in Cusco, now's the time to take your tornado safety precautions because it could produce a tornado at any time. Now, with that said, we're going to go back over to Storm View 3D. And what I'm going to show you here is that the rotation has broadened just a little bit. That's kind of something that's tremendously important. When you see these greens and reds really close to each other, it means that you're probably talking about a tornado. What you notice is the core of the red is displaced from the core of the green. So this area is a diffuse area of rotation. That's the first. And then we have a secondary area of diffuse rotation to the north. If a tornado had touched down on this storm, I think it probably occurred west of Du Bois. Now, with that said, it still poses a risk that it could spin up over the next couple of scans. What I feel like we're probably going to do at this point is give this maybe another scan or 2, which would take us about another 4 to 6 minutes. And if that rotation continues to look diffuse like this, I'll return you to programming. And if I feel like the threat increases, then we'll cut back in to let you know what's going on. So we're going to stay with this as things stand right now. Rick, the storms that we looked at earlier from a visual standpoint vertically were extending to around 52,000 feet. These, you can see the extension of them going to around 48 on the storm that is east of Jasper, the one that potentially has the tornado on it. And then the storm that's northwest of Jasper goes to around 52,000 feet. So these are still pretty deep cores. They're still pretty strong updrafts, and that's kind of care of all that warm and humid air out there. I mean, that's fuel. There's a ton of it.
I mean, yeah, there's absolutely a ton of fuel. We've had it basically all day long. You can feel the fuel, the warmth and the humidity outside. That's basically what these storms feed on. And they like to travel along areas that will support them. They're smart storms. They definitely go along these areas where they have the best fuel to work with. So it does look like some of these storms, well, when they fire up pretty quickly here. As you can see, you can get some rotation just out of nowhere. So northern Du Bois County right now, if you live just out to the north and to the east of Jasper, it's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. Right around Du Bois, that's where we're seeing some of this broad diffuse rotation. And the next couple of scans will sort of determine whether or not this is intensifying or whether this is weakening.
And I agree on that. You know, there is a tail south of Du Bois here, so that does show some little hook on that storm. Traditionally speaking, when we get hooks, that tells us that the storm's actually rotating. Let me actually explain to you what a hook echo is. When a storm hooks, what it does is it's rotating. So that rain that's underneath the parent storm gets actually pulled around the southwest side of the storm. And this is why we say if you're ever to see traditionally, and I say traditionally because this is under normal storms, a tornado, it would be on the southwest edge of the storm. So the southwest edge of the storm is actually pulling the rain around because the rotation in the mid-levels of the atmosphere is bringing that rain around the southwest side. Now you can actually see what appears to be a little bit of a donut hole there near Du Bois. Now with that said, you know, these donut holes sometimes can indicate a tornado, but I think in this situation, probably not necessarily that. I'm going to take you to what we call a two-panel look here, and what I want to look at on the right side is to see if we have any area that would show possibly a tornado signature. Now, what I'm doing is pointing my arrow over the Du Bois area. What you would expect to see on the right side of the screen is nearly no color whatsoever if this was lifting debris. What you see is all pinks on the right side of the screen. That says to us this is not lofting debris. So that's good, Rick. From a standpoint of speaking as a radar meteorologist, we're seeing no signature that would define a tornado on the ground right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we look at the pinks and we see just a big blanket of pinks. It doesn't mean that there's anything being lofted, so it's something that we're going to watch here. Some more warnings actually just came out, Mark. So it looks like south of the river here, these are severe thunderstorm warnings which have just been issued for parts of the area. So we'll take you out and give you
the counties, by the way, I put you back over onto StormView HD, and I'll pull the counties here on 3D for you. Counties, by the way, are Marion, Nelson, and Washington County. Severe thunderstorm located 7 miles northwest of Lebanon. This guy's moving east at 30. Rick, another one with 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Hail doesn't look like it's a big threat. What do you think? I just don't see a deep enough core on that to be a real hail threat.
No, I don't see too much of a hail threat. So I guess the primary threats with this one would be some gustier winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. And along with those gusty winds, just like we've been talking about all day long, torrential rain, blinding rain, something you don't want to be caught outside in, dangerous lightning. All these storms have just a ton of lightning with them. So we'll track this one for you as it heads off to the east. As we said before, around 30 miles an hour. You can see Danville about 13 minutes, Lancaster 24 minutes, and this is something over the next half hour. Again, it's on the eastern side of our area. So once it basically traverses through these counties here, you can see listed in the top right-hand corner of your screen, it will be out of our area, but it is something to be concerned about. Again, gusty winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. That's your major concern if you live in those areas right now.
And the National Weather Service now gave us a status update on the possible storm that could be producing a tornado in Du Bois County. They're still speaking as a radar indicated rotation. They're still saying moving northeast at 10 miles an hour. The thing is normally these storms, when they're going this slow, they're normally not tornado producers. A lot of times they kind of have more of a pace to them. When they tornado produce, there's still no indication whatsoever from a radar standpoint that this one is producing a tornado. A greater problem is going to be that we've got now another tornado warning on the western side, just west of Du Bois County. So this means if this storm stays together west of Jasper, then that could actually then produce a potential tornado for the Jasper area. So if you live in Jasper, while you're not under a tornado warning, your specific area right now, go ahead and think about what you would do if a tornado warning is issued in the next 15 to 20 minutes, because that's absolutely on the table. We're not going to hold you hostage here for hours at a time, but we will want to make sure that we feel like the rotation has weakened enough before we return you back to programming. And then, of course, if that storm that's in Knox County gets into Du Bois County and tornadoes, then we'll go back and we'll stay in on coverage on that. So east of Du Bois is where the area of rotation is. Let's go back over to StormView 3D here. And what you'll notice is a big shroud of rain that's over the Du Bois area through the Cusco area. Now, remember, we're looking for a hook. And if you're saying, Mark, I don't really see a hook, then I'm in agreement with you. I don't really see anything that shows a hook there. And from a rotation standpoint, to me, that rotation has gone down. Let me take you back over the last few volumes of the scan. The area of rotation, and Rick, if you could, put a yellow arrow on that area of rotation and kind of hold the arrow there. So that was the area when that rotation was intense. And Rick, stay with me. What I'm going to do is move forward. There's the intense rotation with the green and the red right next to each other. And now you can see, well, it doesn't really look that good. All right, here's a couple more scans into the future. All right, now they're not really that well next to each other. And then as now we're going to the last volume scan near the just near Du Bois, between Du Bois and Cusco, we kind of have very, very diffuse rotation here. So to me, that rotation has weakened off quite a bit. Since that rotation has come down quite a bit, as I said, I have no desire to hold you hostage during programming. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to eye this storm very, very closely. If that rotation comes up over the next couple of minutes, I'll get right back in and let you know. You're still under a tornado warning in the northern part of Dubois County. The rotation is weakened over the last couple of volume scans. I'm going to keep a very, very close eye on it. Tornado warning Dubois County until 8:30. If the rotation intensifies, I will be right back on the air. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.
Heavy rains and gusty winds are already causing a lot of problems across the area. Storms still out at the moment. We'll talk about where these storms are going and how long they'll stick around up next.
Trees down in Cherokee Park and some flooded roadways. We'll show you storm damage from Indiana and Kentucky.
And what the law is now trying to do is to make marriage what it never has been and what marriage can't be.
A Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage signals a cultural shift, but opinions are mixed on whether it's in the right direction. And you've heard of grass-fed, now get a load of waterbed cows, bovines that are truly milking the treatment.
From Louisville, WDRB News at 10 starts now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Elizabeth Woolsey. David Scott is off tonight. Severe weather moved across our area this evening, bringing heavy rain, wind, and lots of lightning. Flash flooding causing problems all over Louisville, southern Indiana, and surrounding areas. Meteorologist Rick DeLuca tells us what we can expect overnight. It's been a long one so far.
It's been a long one so far. We're not quite done with it just yet. A couple more showers and storms still out there. But the good news is these storms are finally starting to press down to the south, which means areas to our north who had some heavy rain earlier starting to dry things out just a touch. We'll take you outside and show you the current severe thunderstorm watch. Notice some of our northern counties from Lawrence, Jackson, Jennings, Orange, Washington, Scott, Floyd, and even Jefferson County now have been removed from the severe thunderstorm watch. But if you look toward Harrison, Crawford, Perry, and point south, and to the east, you see all those counties shaded in blue still included in the severe thunderstorm watch, which does not expire until 11 o'clock later on this evening. So as you can see here, we still have some severe thunderstorm warnings to talk about as well. This line, northern County, Meade County, northern Hardin, and western parts of Bullitt County, as well as southern Perry County, for showers and storms that are moving across the area. But the damage has already been dealt. Take a look at this, littered with flood watches, warnings. You can see Jefferson County in this flood warning here. So we've had so much rain in such a short period of time that it is not a good idea to be out on the roads. If you encounter a road and it's covered in water, you just have to turn around and go another way. To be honest with you, you shouldn't be out in this sort of weather. Rainfall is torrential, and even though the rain might be ending where you live, a lot of areas still picking up some heavy rain, and the water has nowhere to go, so it's just going to sit and linger there. So you can see tons of lightning with this storm system, some heavier rainfall, some gusty winds, and even some small hail as you head from Irvington through Brandenburg, Hardinsburg, and Tell City. You're going to they'll move pretty quickly, around 45 miles an hour or so, and you can see the motion of this storm system takes it away from our area in the next couple of hours or so. But heavy rain continues from E-Town, and that will be moving toward Litchfield and Campbellsville in a short period of time. See how much longer they stay in our area, and we'll also let you know what to expect tomorrow in just a little bit here.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks. Of our Indiana viewing.